Let's jump in. Now we're going to go through this M50D pretty quick, and there'll be a pop test on this, so pay attention. And since McBride's in special topics, I'll probably have him to, have a pop test on this too.
Buster,
Yep. All right.
Buster in special topics.
All right. It's been around for a while. Two M50D variants, R1 and R2. R1 transmissions were used in a Ford Ranger, Explorer, Aerostar, and Bronco 2. And the R2s were in the F-150, Econoline van, full-size Bronco, Cougar, Thunderbird with a supercharged V6. One time we got to pulling a transmission out of a supercharged Thunderbird in the shop over, and somebody broke in and they stole the transmission because it only had one bolt holding it in. Well, what they didn't realize, the guy was pulling it out, not putting it in. The transmission was all tore up on the inside. He was replacing the transmission, and they stole a bad transmission out of the, funny as all get out. And I know they must have been really disappointed. The M50D ended production in December 2011 to be the last used in the 2011 Ford Ranger. Okay, and this is neutral. Pay attention to that. You got that? That's neutral. See the power flow through neutral, and we kind of went through this on the bench the other day over there. Right here, this is turning that way. You're going here. Nothing's happening back here at the drive shaft area. It's driving. It's always this input shaft. There's a break between the input shaft and the output shaft is right here, right? So this can spin, and none of that can move. Well, I say none of that move. These right here are freewheeling on the shaft. Basically, what they're doing. These don't become a part of that shaft until this collar moves. That's first gear. So you notice this collar moved. I'm gonna go back and forth so you can see it. See which collar moved? See what happened, right? See that collar, how it moved? That's first gear. Input gear drives the counter shaft. 1-2 synchronizer sleeve moves rearward, locks the first speed gear to the output shaft. So this one here is now locked to the output shaft, and you're carrying all the way through this gear down here, up here, and out the back. So that's basically going to be this is not really to scale out. The gear is really, really small actually. This looks kind of fat, and the gears look bigger too, but that's a small gear pulling a bigger gear. So you got this gear driving that one driving that one, it's going out the back, and this is going really slow. 3.9 to 1 ratio, okay? All right, there's second gear. You see what happened? It slid forward. Now you're going through the counter gear, going back that way, going out the back. You got a 2.25 ratio, and you got a 1.49 ratio. You see you're getting a little faster as you go. You're spinning this one, counter shaft's driving that, going all the way out the back. This is straight through, because basically what you've done when you move this forward is you've locked that to this input shaft, and now this is all one shaft going out the back. You got me? That's how that works. And that's a 1-to-1 ratio. That's what fourth gear typically is, okay? All right, this is fifth gear. You notice it goes all the way, see these bearings right here? These bearings are what, where that case divides right there. Now the difference between this transmission and that Jeep transmission is that Jeep transmission's got a spur gear for reverse, and this one here actually has got, it shares the same collar back here behind these bearings. And I'll show you that in a minute. That's a 0.8 to 1 ratio, which is basically going to be your overdrive range. So it comes all the way back here and goes up. So this is a big gear driving a little gear. So this one here doesn't quite make a full turn before that one has turned all the way around, and that's what overdrive is all about. Helps you with gas mileage. Input gear drives the counter shaft on the reverse, and so basically there's another gear that's put into the mix, and it's making it go the opposite way. See the arrows going that way, and remember when you're looking at a rear wheel drive engine, as you're looking at it, it's turning clockwise. If you're sitting in the car, it's turning counterclockwise because you're facing the other way, right? That's the way they got this going on now. 3.91 to 1 is your reverse ratio. Now we're going to begin the disassembly by disconnecting the ego sensor connectors. You know what that is? That's what they used to call a heated exhaust gas oxygen sensor. Now they call it, O2. Hey. All right. What you got there, parts guy?
Actuator.
Hey, we got an actuator, man. There you go. There's your actuator, man. You're going to enjoy that one, aren't you?
Yes, they are.
Are you going to have to pull all the whole dash out of it?
Nope.
Won't be no problem, huh?
Not today.
All right. Okay. Sonia, okay, put this on my desk. And there's another actuator that we warranty replaced yesterday, and get it and take it back. It's in the book. I need to drop my laser. Okay. Now let's move on. This right here is the gear train components. See that? You know what this is right here, right? What is this? Back part of the main shaft. This right here is the input shaft where the clutch goes, right? Goes in there. So all this stuff stacks in there. You see the little synchronizer blocker rings? All right, that's how all that works. And you got these, you can see the forks and the explosion and all that kind of stuff. What we're gonna do, we're gonna tear this thing down. We're gonna take these bolts out. We're gonna pull the top off, right? We got one of these over there in the other shop, by the way. All right, and very small boy, you never did it last time, did you? No, I didn't think so. All right.
What's the brown
And
one?
this right here, nobody that I know has ever had a tool to pull that rear seal out, but that's their deal. Pull the extension housing bolts off, and there that shows an, you know, a socket and extension on there. And then you got your, you know, it shows them. I don't know who in the world that is. I'll get them later. All right. Now then, we're gonna go remove the speedometer drive gear. That little gear right there is actually what turns the and drives the little speedometer, the speed sensor, the cable, whatever you're gonna have there. You're gonna usually on the output shaft where those are anyway, whenever they had a driven thing like that. And then there you got a rear oil passage bolt. You got to pull that out of there. Now what you're gonna do is you put it in 2 gears. You put a transmission in 2 gears, it's locked up and it won't go. So you move that one back and you move that one forward, and that seizes everything up so you can break them big old nuts loose on the back end of it, right? And so see how you're doing that? This one here is going forward and that one here is going backwards. I mean, well, actually they put it in, what gear is that? They're putting it in 2nd and 4th, right? You got that? All right, so basically you gotta do your little counter shaft lock nut there to unstake there, pull it off, pull the bearing off. This is quick. Remove and discard the counter shaft lock nut. You know, it was staked into that thing right there. You can screw that off because you're gonna put a new one on there when you put it back together if you do it right. Pull the counter shaft rear bearing and the counter shaft rear bearing thrust washer. You know, pull that off. All right, now that's the one on the top up here. You gotta pull that big one off. You know how to get that off. You gotta use a tool, big long tool. We got a big long socket, and we got that thing over there, by the way. And we've also, well, actually built one of these, and then this other tool that you pull the bearing off and do that. So you gotta take this reverse idler shaft bolt out. It looks like that right there. That's what that looks like. All right, and so you move the reverse idler gear and the bushing. And see, we got this tool right here for pulling that bearing over there. That remover replacer tube, got a jack bolt in there. You tighten these up so they grip that bearing, and then it goes against the output shaft or where your drive shaft would go, and just pulls it right on off of there. Works pretty good. All right. You're gonna remove your output shaft, reverse gear, bushing, so on and so forth. See all the little parts? Now this is the cool thing about this right here, is if you're gonna see a picture like this in the parts catalog guy, the guy's gonna show it to you. And see, like imagine yourself having to go in there and you've got one little piece you need for the transmission, and you don't know what to call it, but you know that you're gonna have to have the right one, so you can't just go into the parts guy and say, I need a part for the transmission. He says, which part do you have for the transmission? Well, this little ring thingy that goes behind that gear over there between that wash, he's not gonna be able to work with that information, right? You got that? So what you're gonna have to do, that little booklet that they sent out with this, you know, for the mechanics for this transmission, gives you the exact name for all these. You got it? And, so when you get the name for this thing, you can actually say, I need the synchronizer ring for 5th gear. And he can look it up, and he can get an exploded view up like that and tell you exactly, and he'll show you a picture that looks just like this. Got the synchronizer ring for 5th gear, that's number 19. He's gonna see that right there. His parts catalog's gonna give you a parts number. Right? So you got a part number, you're gonna do that. Or you're gonna remove the output shaft spacer, it's gotta come off there. And then your counter shaft reverse gear and 2 counter shaft reverse gear bearings, and the reverse synchronizer blocking ring. It's got to come off there. See that little bearing? You're pulling that off of there. And you can see how that little slot's cut right in there. You know what that's for? I mean, how it's sort of dimpled in right there on that. You know what's that do? You got any idea? Ding, 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 ding. That's all in there. Keeps it so it can lubricate. It's got that little. There's an oil passage, so it's all flow in there around those. Like I tell you, if you got a manual transmission that's leaking oil and you don't fix that oil leak, sooner or later you're going to be rebuilding the transmission. And we had to put one in one of these transmissions. One time we had to put an input shaft and a counter shaft in it and a front bearing because he let it run out of oil and it was making noise in every gear except 4th, and that was what that one was doing. And it was $1,200 for the counter shaft and the input shaft and that bearing. So what I mean is this is not cheap. Okay, you got that? Pay attention. All right, now right here, you gotta remove the reverse gear shift rail bolt. See, there it is right there. And then there's your counterlever assembly fixing bolt location, I'll show you that in a minute. Remove the fifth reverse gear synchronizer, the shifter for, they even give you the basic part number in this little publication here, see. That's the basic part number. On a Ford, you got the beginning of a part number, which is 4-digit, you know, FLTZ or whatever, and then a dash, the basic part number, and then the end, it'll be a C or B or A, whatever, C, A, B, A, and that's the basic part number. So they're kind of giving you an idea, if you happen to have that, you'll say, this transmission on this particular year model truck, I need a 7230, you know, and there may be several gears that are 7230s, but if you tell them exactly which gear it is you need, they'll be able to tell you. A lot of times they'll turn it around and say, hey, what do you think? Look on your paper, look on, tell me what parts you need, you know. Now remove the countershaft fifth gear. Hello. Remove the countershaft fifth speed gear. What we're gonna do there, that was actually a, look at that little split bearing. That bearing comes off there in two pieces. Got two little half cages that goes in there. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? All right, so you remove the fifth and reverse shift over retaining ring, which is a little snap ring there, and you pull this piece out of here. And that basically operates that, you know, little things we got on the back on that other transmission. That's how that works. All right, remove the lock plate bolt, slide the shaft out of the case. That's this and that's the same thing, basically. I just got a couple of different pictures on it. Pull the output shaft's fifth speed gear. Remove the rear bearing retainer plate. That's this piece right here. Pull that off. And you see those bearings on there. And then remove the rear countershaft bearing. Got to get that out. The countershaft bearing be down here. Remember, the main shaft is up here and the countershaft is down there. This is the back of the transmission. All right, now this one right here is really you got to be careful with this one here when you put it back on, because there was one of my people was building that transmission over there, and he put this back on. There was the shims and stuff out of place behind it. He just bolted it right on up because it was a trainer transmission, and he cracked it. And it was like a $75 part, you know what I mean? So watch out, you can break stuff on these things. It's not all bulletproof. You see, you got a thickness, a variable thickness shim right there. You got a seal there.
Look at that.
Huh? Yeah, that was you, wasn't it? Okay. All right, then, let me see here. Remove the fluid passage bolt right there, and remove the fluid passage. This right here is a sort of a little bucket, and what that little bucket does is as these gears are slinging oil, it's catching that oil and channeling it other places that don't get enough lubrication without it. If you leave this out of here, you're making trouble for yourself. It's a piece of plastic, and you're thinking, oh, this is just a piece of plastic. I don't need a piece of junk. All I need is my steel, my greasy steel, man. And so but the little white plastic thing here, if it's left out of there, there's issues, because it's made to catch oil and channel it. All right, you remove the input shaft front bearing race. You getting what it's like here to take one of these apart? Remove the output shaft center bearing race. How you got to pull the bearings out of there? All right, separate the input shaft and the output shaft. So remember I told you they go together right there? All right. And after you've done that, this is still in the case, but you're going to bring this out this way. You remember doing this, don't you? All right, so you bring that out of there, and you notice how that's flat right there? Part of it so you can take it out. I mean, that's the reason that's there, so it gives you clearance and all. Well, you bring that out of the top, like that right there, and then you take the input shaft out. And you got that in your hand. This is the part where the clutch goes. The needle roller bearings in there. On the older transmissions, and little needle rollers were all just separate little cylindrical pieces of metal, and you had to stack them in there and put grease in there to hold them in place when you put it back together, and all that. And one of these knot heads that was tearing a transmission down, and not this one, but a different one over there, he put a bunch of them in his pocket because he didn't want to have to worry with putting them up in there, you know. And then when the next guy tore it down, he come over there and dumped them out of his pocket and said, here, you'll need those to put that back together. You know what I'm saying? Bad news. Okay, counter shaft bearing front race. There's your input shaft. And there you go, slide hammer. What do you think about that? That don't look right, does it? Somebody drew a picture wrong, didn't it? They drew this arrow right there to that. Well, this is actually the input shaft, isn't it? That's the counter shaft. So why did they pour an arrow to that? Who drew that? Okay, here we go. That's the counter shaft coming out of there. See how this is here showing the same thing. You're bringing it out after you pull the other one out. And you inspect the counter shaft for damage. It looks like the teeth are all busted off of that one, doesn't it? That looks terrible. All right, now then, you're going to use tapered roller bearing input shaft using bearing cone remover G71P. That's the bearing cone remover right there. Pull that cone off. Have you done this? Something similar to it? When we was doing rear end differentials? You didn't do that? That's it. You got to go back and do all the worksheets again. All right, so right there, you got to press that off. Well, the differential has got one like that on it. But this right here, it's the same kind of cone bearing. gotta get it off of there. All right, so you gotta install the new one on there. See, there's your new tapered bearing. Got a little plastic scoop ring over the input shaft and all that. All right, so right here, you gotta align your output shaft. Use the output shaft flange as a reference point during assembly and assembly procedures. And you see how it all goes together there. Now you can't leave any of these pieces out, you know what I mean? In other words, if you lost that spacer right there, and you had the needle bearing, and you lost the spacer, and all you had the retaining ring, it can just be aight, and it's gonna throw it together, be good. You gotta have all the pieces just like they're supposed to be. One of the funny thing about, I've been 6, 7 years into the field when I first started working, I could rebuild a manual transmission and make it work. I did a bunch of them, but I couldn't tell you how they worked, you know, because I really had never had anybody show me that, but I could take stuff apart, put it back together, make it work, you know. Clutch hub and sleeve assembly. And what happens whenever you're putting it in your next gear, you're basically, that clutch hub catches that as a slightly cone shape, and it's made to cut that lubricant off of that tapered surface on that next gear, and it brings it into speed, synchronizes the speed of it. So have you ever noticed whenever you go to downshift, if you're driving one of these, when you go to downshift, if you're downshifting and you're going pretty fast, it goes, it drops, it makes a noise like that? That's because it's basically bringing the speed of that gear up to what the other one is. Now you're pressing that, and there's your little, you know, this is when you're doing all this press work and getting these things off and on and all that. See, that piece right there, I will tell you, some of these pieces right here, some of these shaft things are pressed on there, and some of them just slide on. Now, I don't know how they decided how to do that or why or when to do that, but I mean, some of the parts, just because you've taken a snap ring off doesn't mean you're going to be able to pull this gear off. Even though they got splines on there, some are press fit. And now there's a press fit, which is really a hard thing to put it on there. And there's an interference fit, which you can usually bump on there with a hammer and a brass grip or whatever. So different ways and things to put together. And this basically shows you how those are stacked together. See, if a mechanic was building one of these, the Ford dealership, we had these books, and so if you had to put it all back together, they wanted you to see how it went back together, and these are really well illustrated and all that kind of stuff. Third gear needle bearing, third gear synchronizer ring. Here's your synchronizer ring for third gear. It's a little brass blocker. Sometimes they're made out of sintered iron, I guess. But anyway, the long and the short of it is, when you're putting all that back together, we're going through this pretty quick just because we can. All right, now you got a retaining ring select chart. Look at this. Different thicknesses of retainer rings. All right, this is the part number for each one of those thicknesses. And this, as I told you, that basic part number there, you got when you look at some of these Ford parts, you'll see the part number that's on it, like the one that's on these engine controllers. That's not the part number that the parts guy is going to give you. In other words, he doesn't look that number up and hand you one with exactly that same number on it. He's going to look it up. This is an engineering number. And it looks a lot like the part number, but it's not exactly the same. The basic part number will be the same, but the prefix and the suffix of that part number will be different on the Ford stuff. If necessary, adjust third, fourth clutch hub end play to 0 to, what's that? How much of a millimeter is that? 0.05 of a millimeter, which is like 19,000 an inch. By selecting required retaining ring according to retaining ring select chart. So you're supposed to actually check this with a feeler gauge. And if it's not right, you get a different thickness of retainer ring. That's how these transmissions work. They got different thicknesses on it and stuff. All right, and basically you're going to put this back together just like you show there. Then you use a press and roller bearing splitter. They even give you everybody's got splitters if you've done a lot of this kind of work. We got them out here. Use a press suitable spacer bearing replacer, and you're going to put that center bearing in the inner race. I mean, all this has got to be done just right now. Like I say, you can't just guess at it. All right, then there's your needle bearing, your reverse outer gear. They're trying to show you a cross section of it like a draftsman would draw. Remove the following parts from a reverse outer gear shaft, retaining ring, spacer, outer gear, needle bearing, thrust washer. And you see when we're putting it all back together here, how we're being really careful. Put the original retaining ring, insert a feeler gauge between the retaining ring and the reverse outer gear to measure reverse outer gear in play. Now remember in your fundamentals class they showed you, we were talking about doing measuring stuff with a feeler gauge like this, you remember that? All right, so, come on. All right, now look at this, reverse outer gear retaining ring selection. On R12, it's going to be one of these. On R12, it's going to be one of these. And one of the things that I sort of bowed up at, and of course they put metric here, and then they put inches in parentheses. It used to be the other way around. Now think about it, this is a Mazda transmission. That's who made this thing. Another short little funny story. There was a guy that used to do commercials over there, big redheaded guy, Red Holland, and he had a demo from the Ford place, because he had advertised for the Ford place, that's part of his perks, and it was a 5-speed with one of these transmissions in it. And he came in one day and it wouldn't back up. And it's nearly a brand new truck, wouldn't back up, had no reverse. He put it in reverse and just knew nothing, just sit there. And all the rest of the gears worked just fine. But what he had done was, he was paying attention, they didn't have cell phones in those days, but he's driving down the road with his Bronco 2. He went first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and he forgot what gear he was in or something, and he went back in reverse going down the road. And it sheared all those little teeth off. And when I pulled that back part of that transmission out, that all of those little teeth for the reverse were just laying down in their bottom, you know. And I said, I know what happened here. Because, you know, fifth feels like you got another gear to go, and he felt like it ought to be down here or there. So anyway, all I had to do was put a reverse gear, and it didn't hurt anything. I mean, it hurt something, but it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't hard to fix. You know, I didn't even pull the transmission out. Okay, right here we got the counter shaft. This is sort of chopped off here, you know. Now put the counter shaft in there, and then we're gonna put our, you know, get the counter shaft in there and the bearings in place, and we're gonna do our, actually the bearing has gotta be out of place, and that counter shaft's gotta drop down before you can get this back in there, and that little flat's gonna be the key to that. And that's, after you put all that back together, you gotta raise it back up. All right, and you see, and there's this is the case wall and all that. And this gives you dimensions and this cross section and all that. You tap this back in there with a little drift and all. And the position, the center bearing cover, you can see it going back together here. And you got that front bearing out of race. And this right here is really important. You're gonna use a depth micrometer right here to determine which shim you're gonna have to put that plate back on there. You gotta compute that pretty good. I'm not gonna go into all the details. You can see what I'm talking about. That's a depth micrometer. And there's a lot of automatic transmission work where you have to do that kind of thing too. And this right here is your input shafts, shim selection chart, R1 and R2. Notice you have different part number to the diameter of them. And basically you're looking at your all your different part numbers and all your different sizes. So if you had this little chart right here and you knew what you needed, you could go in there and you could tell the parts guy, I need an E8TZ7029T. And he'd say, well, I don't got some, I got to order it. And he goes, oh man, that shuts the whole job down. You know? And so counter shaft shim selection start on the same plate. You're going to have a shim on there too, on that. And so, isn't this great? Aren't y'all just having a good time in here? All right, and basically you got all of this stuff on the front to put in there. That's where all of the, you know, the end play for that stuff is set up. If you put it all together too hard, you know, you burn things out and all. And so let's keep on going here, and you're putting that back on with your little adapter and all that stuff. And there's the shift fork with a little spring and detent ball. What a detent ball does is it's got a spring, and it goes in there and it rides through some little grooves. You know how when you put your gear, it goes click, 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 and it stops in the place where it's supposed to be? And that's what that detent ball is all about, so just keep that in mind too. And there's your transmission assembly, fifth reverse clutch hub and sleeve. You're putting it all back together on the end. Apply sealant to all passage retaining bolts. So we're putting it all back together now. Now right here is your split washer selection chart. That little split washer comes into two pieces, and that's usually the first thing that somebody loses whenever they're tearing that one apart across the way over there. But you see these little numbers here? They are all different. They hadn't even come out with a part number when they published this book on these, but they knew you were going to need whenever you're measuring that, it has to be right. Okay, if it's too tight, it burns things out. That's what you got to do. All right, there you go. See that? Now you're putting it all back together. You're just reversing what you did, but this time around you're measuring things. Make sure that you put it back together so that everything's not spinning together too tight. And then there's your reverse gear, you know, so on and so forth. Putting that all in there. R2 transmissions only, put the output shaft bearing using the gear installer space. They give you tool numbers and all that too. Now we're tightening those back up. We're putting that gear back on. You can see us reversing the stuff we did earlier. Putting this all back together, it's probably even the same picture. Put your synchronizers in neutral gear position. Make sure the shift fork on top lines up. If you don't put that in there right, you're going to have issues. Sometimes when somebody speed shifts it or something, they'll actually wind up with one of the shift forks in a gear, but the gear shifter will be in neutral. That's difficult to deal with because you got to get in there and get that straightened out. It used to happen on Volkswagen Bugs. My dad would take the filler plug out and reach in there. You know, he knew just exactly and snap it back in place and all that. And so put the seal in there with the seal driver, and there you go. Yeah, you guys ought to be able to do this without a hitch, because I know you memorized this, didn't you? All right. All right, what were you starting to say?
All right. Whenever, you know, that detent spring and that synchronizer, what if that thing pops out while you...
Well, basically, it's got a little thing to hold it, is what it amounts to. And when you put that on there, I mean, on some of them, it'll have a little pin you drive through to hold it in place. But what you have to do is you gotta push it in there to hold it while you're driving the, pin in there, or putting a screw in. Sometimes they'll have a plug you screw in there or whatever, depending on how they built it and that kind of thing. So when you're gonna really take it out before you ever slide that off of there. Now, if you don't know that's in there, you may pull it off and go, and it goes somewhere, How many times have you ever dropped a little part that you're working on, and you watch it all the way to the floor, and when it hits the floor, it's like it vanished into the concrete.
Right.
It ain't nowhere to be found. I had a socket that fell off and went up under a bunch of stuff over right under a bench. There was nowhere else it could go, and I went under there and moved everything out from under that bench, and I never did find that socket. I have no idea where it went. Parallel universe, where all the socks go when you lose them in the dryer or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's the end of that story.